Fellowship of the Broken, Making Sense of 12-Step Recovery by Angelo. Chapter 19. Self-Awareness. The first step in the process of transformation is to begin to become self-aware. Prior to this, the personal experience of life is an opaque mixture of ego mind and traces or echoes of universal mind. The belief in the personal identity means that this mind-based experience is assumed to be me, and we live our lives accordingly. The world is generally perceived from a self-centered and selfish point of view, and hence there is inevitably a degree of suffering. The exclusive focus on the ego-centered personal self gives rise to a set of characteristics that are naturally present in all humans to varying degrees. These attributes are all based on self-centered fear and alphabetically include anger, criticism, dishonesty, disrespect, doubt, envy, gluttony, greed, hate, intolerance, impatience, jealousy, judgment, lust, pride, resentment, selfishness, self-condemnation, self-doubt, self-importance, self-justification, self-pity, self-righteousness, self-seeking, sloth, suspicion, thoughtlessness, and worry. At the same time, traces of universal mind are present in the psyche. These qualities are based on selfless love and are the direct opposite of the attributes of the personal ego mind. Matched against each attribute above, these qualities include serenity, acceptance, honesty, respect, faith, gratitude, moderation, sharing, empathy, tolerance, patience, charity, compassion, purity, humility, forgiveness, selflessness, self-forgiveness, confidence, modesty, self-acceptance, self-love, humbleness, altruism, action, trust, consideration, and courage. Given that human beings are a mixture of human and being, we obviously find all of these negative and positive traits present in each of us. We are all unique, hence the intensity and balance of these traits will vary. We are also in a constant state of mind movement, therefore these traits will fluctuate within us from moment to moment. All of this creates the pain and pleasure of human life. The predominance of these negative or positive traits makes the difference between hellish and heavenly experience. This individual cocktail of characteristics within each of us creates a lot of personal confusion when we believe it all to be me. We can be both angels and demons, and this creates a curious conflict between self-justification on the one hand and guilt and shame on the other. We have an impulse to be good people, but somehow we cannot live up to our own expectations, particularly when everyone else seems to be looking after number one themselves. There is a lovely old Cherokee story of two wolves that illustrate this internal conflict perfectly. One evening, an elderly Cherokee Indian was telling his grandson about the battle between two wolves that takes place within each of us. One is the bad wolf, who has all of the negative attributes described above. The other is the good wolf, and he has all of the positive qualities. The grandson asks the wise old Indian which of these two wolves generally wins the battle. The answer was that it's always the wolf that you feed. We feed these wolves through our thinking, our behaviour, and how we choose to spend our time. If we focus only on the human aspect of existence, then we are constantly feeding the bad wolf. If we pay attention to our being, then we feed the good wolf, and our experience of life naturally begins to change. The wolves will always be present, so we must continually feed the good one in order to keep a positive balance. As the good wolf grows stronger, the bad wolf will gradually lose its power. Self-awareness begins when we finally realize that the two conflicting aspects of the individual self are not me. It is the identification with and belief in the personal ego mind that creates the apparent personal conflict. In truth, we are both human and being, or ego mind and universal mind. Both aspects are present, but one is an illusory self and the other is the true self. The illusory self has apparent reality because we believe it to be true, and belief is very powerful. The personal ego self is itself a deeply conditioned thought, but thoughts only have power when we believe them. Thoughts arise when consciousness is processed in the individual brain. The thought and belief that I am a person is the foundational thought on which all other personal thoughts are based. The thought that I am an individual is valid within the consciousness-only model. The thought that I am a separate person with my own life is not valid. It is a misunderstanding. It is the single biggest mistake that humanity has made. This misunderstanding perpetuates from generation to generation, despite the availability of perennial wisdom and despite the suffering that we inflict on ourselves, on others, and on the environment that supports our collective survival. Fortunately, self-awareness is not a mystical or magical experience beyond our reach. Self-awareness is potentially present in every moment of every day. If we slow down and pay attention, we can easily be aware of our existence. We are aware of our thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and perceptions. These are not matters of debate or doubt. These are verifiable facts that we can each determine for ourselves. We already are self-aware, but hitherto this has not been seen as an important observation. Actually, it's a discovery of immense importance. There is something here that is aware of the activity of the ego mind. This awareness is ever present and is not affected by such activity. This awareness is the consciousness out of which the activity arises. The activity of mind cannot be the I, because I am aware of it. I must be whatever it is that is aware of the ego mind. I simply cannot be that which I am aware of. The logic is undeniable, and the experience does not require belief. Once understood, this becomes the starting point for transformation. Self-awareness subsequently requires the willingness to actually observe what is happening in the personal ego mind. It takes practice to see and accept that the over-reliance on the personal mind is the cause of all personal problems. The ego mind will be reluctant to do this, but universal mind has no issue with it at all. In order to even look at our own minds objectively, we have to metaphorically move a step backwards towards universal mind in doing so. This is the start of the movement from ego mind to universal mind, or from human to being. As the cause of the problem is recognized and confirmed, then we become increasingly willing to go through with the process of metamorphosis. Self-awareness works on 3 levels, with each level providing increasing impetus for change. The first level is a mental observation of the negative characteristics of ego mind. It helps with our own self-honesty when we understand that all humans have these traits. We may have thought, reacted, or behaved under the spell of the bad wolf, but this does not make us bad human beings. We have inadvertently been feeding the wrong wolf due to a mistake in true identity. Just acknowledging our own brokenness is enough to allow a new attitude of humility. The second level of self-awareness involves writing down what we become aware of. There is a tangible difference between a mental self-appraisal and actually taking the findings out of the mind and committing them to paper. There is a sense of cleansing in this process, and there is also the opportunity to then see our personal ego characteristics in black and white. The power of undertaking this task should not be underestimated. It is both necessary and revealing. This written self-appraisal can be done as a one-off exercise, or periodically, or on a daily basis if personal problems continue to crop up. The more we do this, the more we will see that all problems are personal. The third level involves sharing our findings with a trusted advisor. Ideally, this should be someone who has been through this process themselves. They will be able to share similar experiences and characteristics, and also highlight aspects of our thinking and behaviour which we may have overlooked or misunderstood. Sharing with another person not only verbalizes our shortcomings to another human being, but also effectively shares them with awareness or consciousness, which is always present. This process can be very liberating, as it represents an unburdening of aspects of personal self that we have kept hidden or suppressed. It is an uncluttering of the mind, and once the clutter reaches the surface, it can evaporate like overnight dew on a sunny morning. The refuse is simply taken away. The sense of cleansing and healing is now even stronger, and so too is the onset of forgiveness. Admitting our faults is nowhere near as bad as we may have thought, and we begin to see that brokenness is the gateway to humility. And such humility shifts the balance from ego mind to universal mind still further. Self-awareness does not come easily to those who are firmly attached to the idea of the personal ego self. There is often a reluctance, which manifests as procrastination or deliberate delay. The caterpillar does not want to look at its own shortcomings, and will find every reason possible to stay as a caterpillar. This is despite the assurance that it already has all of the internal attributes to transform into a butterfly. This fear of metamorphosis can keep us trapped in the bondage of our own minds, and will delay or even prevent our potential liberation. Tolerance of suffering varies from person to person, and hence it's difficult to predict when the moment of truth will finally arrive. The fear of revealing the dark side of our human nature can be a very challenging obstacle to overcome. And there can also be a strong fear that our suppressed emotions and trauma will be too much to bear if they ever see the light of day. And such fears are understandable. Professional help may be needed to help us cope with the fallout from such introspection, but it would be unwise to delay unnecessarily. There can be no progress without self-awareness, so we must find the courage to proceed. At a later stage, we will come to see that such fears were a trick of the very mind that we were trying to disempower. This metaphorical stepping back from ego mind to universal mind requires persistent practice. We are so habitually used to living on the basis of personal ego mind that we will often automatically and subconsciously revert back to it even after we have a degree of self-awareness. The practice that most effectively facilitates and maintains the movement toward universal mind is meditation. The regular practice of meditation is an essential part of the transformation process. Without meditation, there is no hope of breaking the spell of the bad wolf. Meditation is the most effective and beneficial way to feed the good wolf. Meditation quiets the mind and allows clarity to emerge. Meditation improves our ability to be self-aware. We therefore now need to take a close look at what meditation is all about.